I was sitting in my office one afternoon, and a student came in and said, "Professor, I joined a gym." And I asked him, "What for?" And he said, "To get fit, to get strong, to move the way the human body is supposed to move." And I looked at him and I thought, that is a fascinating idea because you just walked here from across campus. You moved exactly the way the human body is supposed to move. You did it for 20 minutes without thinking about it once. And then you paid someone money to do a worse version of that same thing on a rubber mat under fluorescent lighting. Now look, I am not trying to be funny. I am trying to point at something real. Something that most people walk right past, literally, every single day without noticing. The act of walking, the simple, ordinary, completely unremarkable act of putting one foot in front of the other, is one of the most physically sophisticated, energetically brilliant, mechanically jaw-dropping things a solid object has ever done on the surface of this planet. And the fact that your body figured out how to do it over a very long time, in a very specific and nearly optimal way, is worth sitting down and actually thinking about. So let us think about it. The first thing you have to understand is what walking actually is from a physics standpoint. And here is where it gets immediately strange. Walking is not really a stable activity at all. It is a controlled fall. Every single step you take, you are tipping your center of mass forward, past the point where your base of support can hold you, and then at the absolute last possible moment, your other leg swings out and catches you. You are perpetually falling. You are just very good at catching yourself. And the reason this matters is because falling is not something you have to do extra work for. Gravity is doing that part. The Earth's mass is pulling you down and forward, and your job, the job of your muscles and bones and tendons, is not to create that motion. Your job is to manage it, redirect it, and recycle it. That is a completely different engineering problem from, say, lifting a barbell. When you lift a barbell, you are fighting gravity. You generate force, apply it upward against the downward pull of the Earth, and then you put the thing back down and most of that energy goes nowhere useful. It becomes heat. It vibrates the floor slightly. It is gone. But when you walk, you are not fighting gravity. You are dancing with it. You are borrowing its momentum and using it to move yourself horizontally across the surface of the Earth. And that reframing, from walking as effort to walking as energy management, is the key to understanding why the human body is so extraordinarily good at it. Here is the physics in a little more detail. When you are mid-stride, your body is behaving like an inverted pendulum. An inverted pendulum is a pendulum where the weight is at the top and the pivot is at the bottom, which is inherently unstable, which is exactly the situation you are in when one foot is on the ground and you are tipping over it. Now, a normal pendulum, the kind with the weight hanging down, does something beautiful. It converts potential energy into kinetic energy on the way down, and then kinetic energy back into potential energy on the way up. It is constantly swapping between the two forms, and if there were no friction and no air resistance, it would just keep going forever without you adding any energy at all. Your walking gait does approximately that same trick. When your body is at its lowest point during a stride, meaning when your leg is straight down and your center of mass is closest to the ground, your kinetic energy is at its highest. You are moving fastest. And as you tip forward and your center of mass rises slightly, that kinetic energy converts into potential energy. You slow down a tiny bit. And then as you fall forward over the next step, that potential energy converts back into kinetic. You speed up again, back and forth, kinetic to kinetic, like a pendulum. Like a machine that keeps cycling the same energy through different forms, and the efficiency of this is genuinely remarkable. Researchers who have measured the mechanics of human walking have found that this inverted pendulum mechanism recovers somewhere around 60 to 70% of the energy that would otherwise be lost in each stride. 60 to 70% for free, just from the geometry of the motion and the cooperation of gravity. You are getting more than half your locomotion energy handed back to you by physics itself, at no cost to your muscles. Now your muscles do still have to do work. I am not saying walking is effortless. But the work your muscles do in walking is not the same kind of work as in lifting or sprinting. Your muscles in walking are primarily working as stabilizers and timing mechanisms. They are keeping the pendulum swing on track. They are making small corrections. They are absorbing shocks. And here is where another piece of magnificent engineering comes in, which is your tendons. Tendons are not muscles. They do not contract. They are elastic. They stretch and recoil. And the tendons in your lower leg, particularly the Achilles tendon, are behaving like springs during walking and especially during running. When your foot hits the ground, your Achilles tendon stretches slightly, storing elastic potential energy, just like you stretching a rubber band. And then, as your foot pushes off, that tendon snaps back, releasing that stored energy and contributing directly to your forward propulsion. This is not a minor contribution. Measurements of the Achilles tendon during running suggest that it contributes a very substantial fraction of the mechanical work required for each stride. Your tendon is essentially doing work for free, using energy it captured from the previous step. It is a biological spring that never runs out of springs. And then there is the arch of your foot. The arch is not decorative. It is a spring too. When your foot contacts the ground, the arch flattens slightly, absorbing energy. When you push off, it rebounds. It is storing and returning elastic energy in each step, like a small bow that gets drawn and released with every single footfall. The entire lower limb, from your heel up through your Achilles tendon and into your calf and through your knee, is a coupled system of springs and levers that is exquisitely tuned to take energy from the ground collision and bounce it back up into forward motion. Now, let us talk about where this came from, because none of this is an accident and none of it appeared suddenly. The human foot, leg, hip architecture, the specific proportions of your limbs, the ratio of your stride length to your leg length, the angle at which your femur comes down to your knee, all of it is the product of a very long process of selection where creatures that moved more efficiently survived better and had more offspring than creatures that moved wastefully. Over millions of years, the body that burns the least energy per kilometer traveled out competes the body that burns the most. And so what we have inherited is a walking machine that has been optimized by an iterative process spanning a timescale you cannot really imagine, with the optimization criterion being energy cost per distance. We are not the fastest land animal, we are not the strongest, but measured in calories burned per kilometer traveled at a comfortable pace, human beings are among the most efficient large terrestrial mammals on the planet. And there is a specific reason for that efficiency that goes beyond just the mechanics I have described. It has to do with our relationship with heat. Running fast generates enormous amounts of heat. Most four-legged animals that run quickly are doing so in bursts, precisely because they overheat. They cannot sustain high speed because their thermoregulation cannot keep up with the metabolic output. But human beings are extraordinary heat dissipators. We have an unusually large number of sweat glands for a mammal of our size. We lost most of our body hair, which dramatically improves convective and evaporative cooling. And we have an upright posture that keeps our head elevated, reducing the area of our body exposed to direct solar radiation while also maximizing airflow over our skin surface. The whole package, the upright stance, the reduced hair, the sweat glands, the mechanics, is coherent. It is a system built for sustained locomotion in hot open environments over long distances. There is a hunting strategy, persistence hunting, that some populations historically used, where you do not chase an animal down in a sprint. You simply follow it at a steady walk or gentle run, hour after hour, in the midday heat. The animal can sprint away from you, but it cannot cool itself fast enough to sustain that sprinting repeatedly. You, on the other hand, are cooling yourself constantly through sweating, maintaining your body temperature, keeping your metabolism from shutting you down. And eventually, after hours of this, the animal is in a state of heat exhaustion and you are still going. You literally walk your prey to death. That is the ecological niche this body was built for. Not lifting things over your head, not running short sprints, walking, covering ground. Sustained bipedal locomotion over long, flat distances under a hot sky. Now here is something that I find genuinely interesting from a pure physics standpoint. The optimal walking speed for a human being, the speed at which the energy cost per distance is minimized, is not something we consciously calculate. Your nervous system calculates it for you, automatically, without any deliberate thought. If you slow down below your optimal speed, your cost per kilometer goes up because you are doing more muscular work to maintain balance, and you are not getting the same return from the pendulum mechanics. If you speed up above your preferred walking speed, your cost goes up again because you start needing to push off harder and the gait becomes less mechanically efficient until eventually you transition to running, which uses a different set of mechanics with a flight phase where both feet are off the ground simultaneously. The walking to running transition happens at a speed that is remarkably predictable from a simple dimensional analysis using leg length and gravitational acceleration. It is not arbitrary. There is a number, called the Froude number, which captures the ratio of centripetal acceleration during the stride to gravitational acceleration, and across a remarkably wide range of animal species, the transition from walking to running gaits happens at a Froude number of approximately 1. Not because someone designed it that way, but because it emerges naturally from the physics of the inverted pendulum and the limits of what that mechanism can do. It is a universal constant of locomotion, derived from gravity and geometry, obeyed by children, adults, elephants, and birds alike. And the skeleton itself is not just structural. It is participating in the energy exchange. Your bones are stiff, meaning they store very little elastic energy compared to your tendons. But their geometry determines the lever arms through which your muscles act, and those lever arms determine the mechanical advantage at each joint. The proportions of your leg bones are not random. The relative lengths of your femur, tibia, and foot bones affect the mechanical advantage of your muscles, and therefore the efficiency of your stride. Change those proportions, and you change the energy cost of locomotion. Natural selection has been pushing on those proportions for a very long time, and what we have ended up with is a set of proportions that works remarkably well for sustained walking. And the neural control of all this, the timing of when each muscle fires, the split-second coordination of dozens of muscles across both legs and your core and your arms, is happening largely without your conscious involvement. Your spinal cord contains pattern generators, networks of neurons that produce rhythmic, oscillating signals that drive the basic walking rhythm. Your brain is steering, setting the speed, handling obstacles. But the fundamental coordination of the gait is being handled lower down, automatically, in real time, making adjustments faster than conscious thought could ever manage. Your foot hits an unexpected bump, and your ankle and knee joints are already adjusting before the signal has even reached your cortex. The system is running itself. So when someone asks me what is the best exercise for the human body, I always want to ask them, best for what? Best for maximum muscle hypertrophy, sure, there are other things. Best for cardiovascular output at maximum intensity, there are other activities. But if the question is what activity does the human body perform in a manner that is most consistent with the architecture it has actually developed, meaning the springs are engaged, the pendulum is working, the thermoregulation is functioning, the gait pattern generators are running their program, the tendons are doing their elastic storage and return, the whole integrated system is being used as a whole integrated system, the answer is walking. Because every single part of the machine, from the arch of your foot to the elastic return of your Achilles to the inverted pendulum mechanics to the evaporative cooling of your skin to the spinal pattern generators, is specifically shaped to do exactly that one thing, and do it for a very long time, at a very low energy cost, across a very large distance. The gym is great for certain things. I am not mocking it entirely. But a lot of what happens in a gym is taking a machine built for one very specific task, which is covering ground on two legs in the open air, and running it through a set of tasks it was not particularly shaped to do. That is fine. It adds something. But it is not the same as running the machine through the task it was shaped for. And the fascinating thing is that the machine runs the task it was shaped for almost on its own. You barely have to think about it. You just start walking and the physics takes over. That is the part that gets me. The fact that the most sophisticated locomotion system we know of on this planet, a system that took an enormous span of time to develop, a system that involves coordinated springs and pendulums and levers and cooling mechanisms and neural pattern generators all working in harmony, the fact that that system runs itself, automatically, efficiently, almost effortlessly, every time you simply decide to go somewhere, and that most people spend their whole lives doing it without ever once noticing what an absolutely extraordinary thing is happening from the ground up, through every bone and tendon and muscle and nerve in their body with every single step. That is the thing I find worth thinking about.